Welcome to I Love My HBCU ? The podcast where we express our undeniable love for HBCUs, but where we are also not afraid to address a few tough questions. So, sit back, learn a little, love a lot, and rep your HBCU.
All right. Welcome to everyone hearing the sound of my froggy voice. And everyone listening and watching, welcome to another episode of I Love My HBCU ? I have the amazing Shimei Cook with me as a guest. Shimei, say hello.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Thank you so much for having me on.
I'm well. Well, I'm not well. That's actually,
Yeah.
isn't it
Well, you're
amazing how
well because you're speaking to me. That's all that matters.
Well, that's not all that matters,
Yeah.
Shimei. I want to say that's all that matters, but it's not, because I'd rather not be in so much pain right now.
Okay.
You know how I think it's funny how I literally just said I'm well when you said, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Because that's our society, right?
Yeah.
We're told to
You
just
got a good
answer
point.
immediately.
Yeah, that's our automatic answer.
Automatic answer. And I thought about it and I was like, I was in bed for 24 hours, literally before I started recording with you. So I'm not well.
Yeah.
And I'm sharing that because those who hear the podcast often will be like, what is wrong with her voice today? This is not me. This is not what I sound like on most days. But to all my fellow sicklers right now, I hope we all get better pretty soon. By the time everybody sees your episode, though, Shimei, I'll be doing somersaults by then. So
Good.
I am well.
Good.
Shimei, you are joining us. Actually, I'm going to say you're joining us from two HBCUs, the first one being North Carolina Central,
Yeah.
and the second one being Fayetteville State University. Tell me, what are you at Fayetteville State University? Because I read your bio and you are a lot of things. So you tell us, how would you describe the amazing Shimei Cook at Fayetteville State?
I am a storyteller. I'm a journalist. I'm a talk show host. I'm a reporter at heart. I love to, tell the story of what Fayetteville State has to offer. Love to have conversations. I have a talk show. It's called What's Hot with Shimei Cook, where we talk about a lot of stuff going in, around HBCUs, around campus, in the headlines. We just came off of election and we have a new president now, so that's a good discussion. There's good discussion that other student leaders and students around campus are having. And other conversations I like to, make my peers think and try to relate to my peers as well. So that's what I am. I'm a journalist, storyteller. I'm a journalist at heart, though.
I love that. I love the way, I love the way you put everything. I do. That's A. B, I love the fact that you kept going back to storyteller. So I'm gonna give you a little bit of a quiz,
Okay.
right? You should have seen his face. I hope people are watching this. The minute I said quiz, he's like, oh, okay. Like the way his eyes like fluttered, like, wait, hold on. I wasn't expecting that. It's not really a quiz. But I am curious because you mentioned something extremely important. And that is, sure, we're recording this in January. The audience may not hear this for another couple of months or so, but we're recording this in January. And like you rightfully said, we have a new president.
Yeah.
And the we, I think you're referring to is the United States of America.
Yes.
So, as a storyteller, Shimei, tell me, what do you think the headline will be years from now, capturing the first week of 47 in presidency?
40 years. Okay.
Years from now, I want you to give me a storyline. That's all I'm asking for is you give me a storyline. Years from now, what do you think the headline could read? If you were coming up with a headline, what do you think the headline would read? Depicting 47, Donald Trump is 47, depicting 47's first week in office. I'm curious to hear what your headlines would be. Give us three if you've got three. If you've only got one, I'll take one.
I think one will be Trump makes big statement in first 100 days. So Trump makes big statement in the first 100 days.
Trump makes big statement in First 100 days. I would say first 7 days because it
Yeah,
would.
that's true. But you said 100, so I'm gonna try to keep it at that. But yeah, first 7 days, day one, I will say. But yeah,
Yes, absolutely. Were there any of his executive orders that surprised you?
the one thing that really surprised me is the him partying 1,500 January 6 rioters that who fought with police officers who raided our nation's capital. Um, but to be honest, it's not surprising. A criminal is going to look out for other criminals. So it is what it is. So yeah.
When you said that it surprised you, the flash that went through my head was he did allude to the fact that he was going to do that.
Yeah, but sometimes people say, in politics, I'm technically a politician myself as the president of my hall. Sometimes some people don't live up to what they say, or some people just say stuff that they want to get the vote, so they want to say stuff. So I didn't really think, and that's my fault my fault as as an American to not believe, our politicians and our leaders of our country. Yeah, that was really, saying one thing and actually doing something totally different. I would say reactions that I would get.
You said something very interesting because I started off by saying that he alluded to the fact that he was going to do this. And you're not alone. I believe a lot of Americans, myself included, didn't particularly believe that he would.
Yeah.
And then you said that maybe that was your fault for not believing the politicians. I've been hearing a lot of conversation with persons who support Trump that he's one of the first politicians that we have that you actually want to listen to what he is saying.
You have a good point.
Because
And
you can believe that he's going to do what he's. Go ahead.
He might just say the most obnoxious thing that you can ever, think of, but I think he's like an addiction to some people in a way. And I'm not saying for me, if I wasn't a journalist or a storyteller, I would not be watching politics all the time. But for me to do my job in such a high level that I do now, and to make sure I have the proper conversations and proper content and context to have proper conversations, I need to stay informed in other things and watch his press conferences and other things. And
Sure.
But it's kind of like people are addicted to some of the stuff that he says. Like, what is he going to say next? And he has that thing about him that he doesn't care what people think. He's going to say what's on his mind. And he has that audience where they're going to stick by him if he's wrong or right.
So, Shimei, what are your thoughts on the fact that a lot of the Trump supporters make the claim that he says something, but he does what he says he's going
It's
to
delusion.
do?
That's what it is.
Hold
Delusion.
on. Which isn't particularly the case with other politicians. Trump actually, so let's use an example, right,
Yeah.
Shimei? The example is he said he's going to pardon the felons.
1,500 people. Yep.
And he did.
Yeah.
What they're saying is what they like about him is he does what he says he's going to do, which isn't always the case with most politicians.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it goes down to the Republican Party. The Republican Party are united. That's the difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. The Republican Party are united. They are standing with each other. They're not wishy-washy. And compared to the Democratic Party, they're one thing. They say one thing but do another. I don't blame Joe Biden for doing what he did when pardoning his son, but he said he was not going to pardon his son. And you saw what happened, and he did. That's what people are looking at when it comes to Democrats and Republicans. Democrats are not organized, and the American people are seeing that. Republicans right now are organized. We might not like their policies, but we have to fall in line because when they say something, they're going to support each other and fall in line and push bills that they want to push because they are falling in line and are organized in a way where we know what we want and we're going to do it, take the power, and go forward.
So you mentioned being organized and disorganized.
Yeah,
To quote you, is one key difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. Are there
yeah.
any other big differences that you note between the two?
Consistency. The Democrats are very inconsistent right now.
Okay.
This was my first time voting as a in the presidential election,
Okay.
this past election, and I've been invited to Kamala Harris's rallies, for being a student leader here at Fayetteville State,
Sure.
and you see that she has other Democratic leaders in the state and around the country who are behind her, but you see she ran a great campaign for 100 days, and but she would have ran a better campaign if Joe Biden stepped back sooner.
Mm.
Joe Biden's the reason why Kamala Harris lost. You can't run a success. She ran a great campaign, but you can't win in 100 days, especially. And don't get mad. And it's kind of cliche, and I think it's wrong. But especially when you are a black woman, when you got to have to work 10 times as harder than your other counterparts. Now, I believe I was raised by a great mother, great grandmother, right? Where women can lead, women get stuff done, no doubt, especially black women. So, and she's more Kamala Harris on paper, more qualified than Donald Trump. But the American people didn't believe in that. But she didn't. To her defense, she didn't have the proper timing because of Joe Biden. He did not step out in enough time, and he was selfish. And then money talks in anything, especially in politics. And once George Clooney and other big donors to his party said that they're not donating to his campaign, then his hand was forced. Then he said, "Okay, Kamala, here you go." So that was the thing.
It's interesting to hear. So I was not planning for us to have this conversation, but the minute you told me what you do, how could I not ask you this question, or go down this line of conversation with you? You and I could spend this entire hour literally talking about the campaign alone and then politics, but I don't want us to do that. We might come back to it. Don't apologize. Do not apologize. We might come back to it. And if we come back to it, that's my fault, not yours.
Okay.
But I want to get into you for a hot second. And I think the best way to do that is to throw our rapid fire segment at you, because it will allow us to know a little bit more about Shimei Cook. Are you ready for the rapid 67?
Absolutely. Let's go.
You were ready even before I finished asking the question. He's like, absolutely, let's do this. Shimei, you are amazing. Let's go. All right, Shimei.
Yeah.
Describe yourself in 3 words.
I'm very energetic. I'm very caring. And I'm very outgoing.
Energetic, caring, outgoing. I love it. Shimei, you're at your college graduation.
Uh-huh.
Who do you want as your commencement speaker?
Well, she's not really well right now, but it will be one of my idols in media, Wendy Williams.
Wendy Williams.
Yeah, I will think that for her to be, successful as she was in the 13 years that I saw her on television. People know her from radio. She had a big radio background before she got into television. But to hear her at her prime, at my college graduation, I would love to hear what Wendy Williams had to say.
That's amazing. Yeah. Wow, that's a first. That's a first. Okay, what's your unpopular opinion about HBCUs?
That we don't like PWIs. I think that people think that, you're not, if you go to HBCU, you think PWIs are, you think HBCUs are better than PWIs. That's not the case. We're not degrading PWIs because we go to HBCUs. HBCUs were made for blacks to be authentically themselves. You understand? You're with your people, and it's a different experience that you won't get anywhere else. I'm sorry. I have internships at PWIs, and I want to go to a PWI for grad school, but that's a different experience from grad to undergrad. Undergrad is it's some of the memories that you will remember for the rest of your life. Some people meet their husbands and wives at their HBCUs. There's HBCU love story. Hopefully I find one. I still got a year and a half.
He said I still got a year and a half. I love it. I love it.
Hopefully I'll find one. But there's HBCU love stories. There's just so much in black. That people will talk about Black history. We're walking around Black history every day. People want and that's the thing that I really appreciate about. I think that's one thing that people don't understand about HBCUs. I think that's one of the things that we think we're better than PWIs.
Okay.
When in fact the culture is somewhat better, and if we had the much as resources as PWIs, I think we can overtake some of these nations and these bigger schools when it comes to HBCUs, because HBCUs are very strong, very strong. Yeah.
So, Shimei, you have successfully eaten up more than 67 seconds with that response. I appreciate it. I don't apologize. You're fun to talk to. Yeah. I appreciate it. But I always squeeze in 1 or 2 more questions. So shout out your favorite professor and what do they teach? Or it could be your favorite person. It doesn't have to be a professor. So your favorite person or professor at your university, what do they teach or what do they do?
Okay, let's see. It does. Okay, professor. Well, I don't want to say something that people feel left out. Okay, I will say that my new department chair, her name is Dr. Hayes. She is the interim chair of the communications department,
nice.
Communications and media studies, and she's been nothing but great to me and the rest of the fellow communications students, and she is so open to students that I really appreciate that for her. So yeah, Dr. Hayes, I really admire her, and she's very supportive of students, and that's one thing I really appreciate.
I love it. I've got one more question. So if your time in college was a song, if your time in college so far, I love the way his eyes just shut up. If your time in college so far was a song, what song would it be? He's reaching out for something. Oh, okay.
Sorry, when you talk, you get cotton mouth.
Listen.
Let's see.
So far.
Okay, so I watched The View a lot. I love their theme song, This Version of Me. So right now, it will be The View's theme song, This Version of Me.
Oh, that's beautiful. This version of me. Okay, so officially the 67 seconds are done. I have a number of things I want to come back to from the 67, but before I go there, like I said earlier on, you're representing Fayetteville State University. That's where you are right now, absolutely. But I still want to hear your college selection journey, because you did not start at Fayetteville State University. No. You started at North Carolina Central University. So I'm curious, number one, how did you make the decision for North Carolina Central? Yeah. And what led you from North Carolina Central to Fayetteville State?
Yeah. So I'm the oldest of 4 children, and my mom had me very young at the age of 17. She turned down a full ride to Howard University to have me and take care of me. So I wanted to go to Howard, but tuition is high. It's a private institution. So I applied to other schools. I'm from Bloomfield, Connecticut. Connecticut is one of the second smallest state in the nation. And I had this mother who told me that you need to go to an HBCU. I didn't know what HBCUs were until my mom and my 7th grade English teacher, who was a white woman, told me about HBCUs. So I was one of those people. I played football, right? I knew I wasn't good at football. I was good in high school, but I knew I wasn't good enough to play in college.
Got it.
Yeah, that's a whole different level, and I'm not good for that. But I always got in trouble for talking in class. So I said, well, let me find a career where I could talk for a living. And boom, journalism, television happened. So I will say, fast forward, college, I wanted to go to HBCU. So I applied to North Carolina A&T. I applied to, Morehouse. I did apply to Howard, and I got in. All the colleges that I applied to, I got in. But my mom told me to apply to North Carolina Central. We were moving to North Carolina anyways after I graduated high school. So she wanted me to stay in state to get in-state tuition and be closer to home.
Sure.
And I never heard of North Carolina Central until she told me. And I looked it up. I was like, wow, they just built a brand new studio, when I was looking it up. Never took a tour of the school. I just looked it up, did my own due diligence and all that stuff. And I saw that they had a radio station. They just built a new news station, a new studio. So I was like, okay, I applied. So, and I looked at the offers, and I was like, from all the schools that I got into, and I got into Morgan State as well. That just came to my mind. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to North Carolina Central. It was a small school. It was a decent sized school. It wasn't that big. It's still a Division I school, and I think I could flourish there. So I got in and I did all the process. And when I got there, it was amazing. Everybody was nice. And yeah, when I got there, I got straight to work. I knew what I wanted to do. We started classes August 15th, which is my mother's birthday, which is so ironic. August 15th, I remember it, 2022. And August 30th, I had my own radio show. I went to the first day of class. I went to the radio station saying, I'm a freshman here. I just got here. And I want to get involved. I want to have my own show. How can I do that? And they told me the proper protocol, all that stuff. And I got my own show. And What's Hot with Shimei Cook was born. So there I had my show was number one. All the whole time I was there, I really think, Miss Dio Underdew, who was there, who was the program director, of the radio station, NCCU Audio Net. And, I had great conversations like I'm doing here at Fayetteville State, where I'm having, talk conversations about pop culture and all that stuff and stuff around campus. And yeah, I was heavily involved. I was part of the Men's Achievement Center over there. And I really enjoyed it. Yeah. So North Carolina Central, you want me to tell you how I transitioned to Fayetteville State?
Yes, because it sounds like you were having a really good time at NCCU.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what your reason is that you're about to give us, that you went from NCCU to Fayetteville.
Yeah. So I talked about the Men's Achievement Center at North Carolina Central. So there was the director there left my first semester of my freshman year, and he was an alum of North Carolina Central, and he became the dean of students here at Fayetteville State. And he was a former mass comm student, and he saw the potential in me, that said, if you ever want to, come over, if you ever want to leave, I'm always here to help, and you can flourish here. And he told me that, Fayetteville State had a bigger radio station, and you could really flourish here. And, after some consideration and some thoughts and all that stuff, there's no shade to NCCU. They are under construction right now for their studio, or for their radio station right now. So the temporary studio is in like a closet space or classroom space. And I just don't have the patience or the time to wait for a whole studio to be built. To be honest. So I was like, well, I think I might take him up on that offer. So that Thanksgiving break, me and my mom went down here, took a tour. He gave us as a dean of students, he gave us a golf cart tour. And I saw that I can really flourish here. I saw that, I can really be somebody here. And I have, I started off doing radio here. I'm not part of the radio station anymore, but I still enjoy, having my talk show. I have a talk show here, What's Hot with Shimei Cook, but now it's a television show. Yeah, and I also wanted to do student leadership, student government, and all that stuff. So, and at North Carolina Central, it was kind of in a way where it was kind of unfair and not a fair democracy in certain places. So I was like, well, I'm not going to flourish here. And I was that person as well, that journalist where, as a politician, I'm going to hold you accountable. As a student leader, I'm going to hold you accountable. If you say something and you're not living up to it, I'm gonna talked about it on the show. And I had this saying, I talk about you. I get paid to talk about you. I don't get paid to talk to you. So if you have a problem with what I said, the mic is always open. And sometimes they came on, sometimes they, talk about my back, but it's okay. I know what I signed up for. So when then after that, I came to FSU, and it's really family orientated here at FSU. And that's one thing I really appreciate. It's a smaller school, but I think that here I am flourishing more than I was at North Carolina Central. I feel like I'm a big fish in a smaller pond where I can work with people. People can work with me. People can, create opportunities, and I'm very grateful. Thank you. And Dr. Roger Keith is his name, the dean of students here at Fayetteville State, and he created a male matriculation and female matriculation program where people can have professional development and academic achievement and all that stuff. So yeah, it's one thing that I'm very grateful. Fayetteville State is one of the schools that is it might not be the biggest school that people think it is. And it's not a big school, but it's a school where it's a home away from home. And they are adamant about that, from orientation to the classroom. And I really appreciate that. So that's one thing I really appreciate about Fayetteville State. And that's how I got here.
So what I appreciate about what I've heard in your story is to be selfish.
Yeah.
And
I gotta put me first. Yeah.
And I have to be honest, not a lot of students do that.
Yeah.
But dare I say, I think more students should.
Absolutely.
With regards to what is it that you want out of college, or what is it that you sought out of college? And in your case, it was to flourish.
Yeah.
And if you don't find yourself flourishing in a space, without necessarily bad-mouthing one thing or another, go to where you flourish.
Yeah.
And I think more people actually should be a little bit more selfish with regards to that decision. And good for you. That's what I appreciate about what I heard, is you chose to be selfish. Good for you.
Because at the end of the day, it's my tuition. I'm paying for an education, so I don't want my money to go to waste. Not saying my money went to waste at Central, because I had some great opportunities and great relationship at Central. Well, still do. But here, like, I don't have. It's just the time. Time is money, and I just don't have any time to waste. So I just wanted to be in a place where something is already set up, and I could just take over and be my authentic self and go from there. And that's what
I heard you apologize twice, and I don't think you should. And the reason why I'm asking you not to apologize, a lot of students more students watch our podcast, especially when there's a student guest. A lot of the people that watch our podcast when there's a student guest are students. So a lot of students are going to see this, Shimei, and I want them to hear your voice unadulterated, meaning there's nothing to apologize for switching from one university to another.
Yeah.
To see your investment applied differently.
Yeah.
Because you said I'm sorry, but not that my money was going to waste in North Carolina Central. For some people, their money would be going to waste if they went to Fayetteville State University as opposed to North Carolina Central, right? So I think it's important and it's why I use the term selfish initially.
Yeah.
I don't mean selfish in a negative way. I mean selfish in put you first.
Yeah.
You've got to see what it is you want out of it, and you go for that. So every student that ends up seeing this episode, I want them to hear you, Shimei. And in them hearing you, I want them to hear somebody who chose where he was going to flourish as his choice for university, and not just where he got in, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Shimei, beyond what you've just shared with us, right? What else does Fayetteville State University do right in your viewpoint?
They put students first. Okay. That's one thing that I really appreciate about, Fayetteville State. We have great leadership where, if you have a problem, you can go right up to them. We have a chancellor, Daryl T. Allison, where if you have a problem, you could go up to him. He has an open door policy, and his administration really creates a great culture where students. Some people think some students feel intimidated going up to the president or the chancellor of their institution, and Chancellor Allison doesn't do that. I think the first day of class, I went to his office and met with him, told him that what I wanted to do and why I came here, and he said you could always come to my office and you always have an open door policy. So that's one thing I appreciate, and he's doing great things for our campus. He has a great business mind. He's very upgrading our campuses, putting more dining option, and one thing I noticed about as a black man in leadership, he doesn't take all the credit. Every time there's a press conference or something, he said what we did, not what I did. It's what we did, and that's a leader. That's leadership, and that's a true leader, and that's what I appreciate, especially as a black man in leadership in America, especially in the South. That's something I take admire of, and I'm not in, and that's something that I really appreciate. Here at Fayetteville State, I think we have great leadership, and we have people to put students in the right places at the right time and set us up for success.
Shimei, you are a storyteller, and you do this better than I do. You've been a television host now and a radio host longer than I have. So you should know that if I ask you, what does Fayetteville do so right? I'm going to ask you also, what could Fayetteville State University also do a little bit better?
There's always room for improvement. I think that we have a lot to offer, but we need better promotion, for what's things, and we need better student engagement. I think some people are not used to being, or that transition from high school to college. Some people are just used to being in their room in sweats all the time. You need to get out the classroom. You need to get out your room and go out, engage with other people. You might meet a new friend. You might meet somebody at the cast. You might meet someone at the grill. You might meet someone, at a game. So just engage with your fellow, students, because this HBCU experience is like none other. It's a lot of alumni that are here to support. It's a lot of resources that are here, and people just don't take a notice of that. So I think if we did a better job with promoting and marketing to students, I think that Fayetteville State can be better than what it is right now. So marketing to students and promoting different things and resources and events, that's what Fayetteville State could do better.
So remember I told you that I was going to come back to a couple of things you said during the 67? So I asked you what your unpopular opinion is about HBCUs, and you said that we don't like PWIs.
Yeah.
And you also said that for grad school, you're going to go to a PWI.
Yeah.
Why do you already know that now? And here's the reason why I'm asking you that, right?
Yeah.
You're in undergrad.
Yeah.
You're at an HBCU.
Yeah.
You've decided you're going to go to grad school. And you've made the bold statement that for grad school, I am going to a PWI. Yeah. Why not another HBCU?
So, first of all, I want to stay in the state of North Carolina. I'm a mama's boy, so I won't be with my mom at all times. And my mom is in North Carolina. Okay. So, there's for the master's program that I want, there's not HBCUs don't. The HBCUs in North Carolina don't have it to offer, and that's no shade to them, but it's just I know what I want, especially in grad school, and I just know that program that I'm going to is probably going to fit me best for grad school in that program.
Okay.
What was
that's fair? That's fair. That was it. That was the question. That's fair. It's just you were so assured about it earlier when you said, now, don't get me wrong, I'm going to a PWI for grad school.
I think it's not about a race thing, too. I think that's what people make it a thing. Like, people, they think that, when people who go to HBCUs don't know how to be around other people of color, other races, and I think they being at an HBCU, they teach you how to be your authentic self, no matter who you're around. So I think I could be in a room with Black people, but I could also be in a room with white people and still be myself. People are people. I don't see color. People are all American, here, and people are people, and that's the heart of how our country is. Yeah, one word I would definitely describe our country is possibility. Anything is possible for, anybody, no matter what what race you are, what demographic you are, anything's possible. And, I have a saying, the action never stops. That's one of my catchphrases that I say. And, the if you keep going, no matter what goes in your, comes in your way, no matter if you go through racism, you go through sexism, or what may have you, your end goal is going to be like no other. Just stay the course, just stay consistent. And I think that's what I think being at the HBCU has taught me, how to be my authentic self, but also, when to turn it off and when to turn it on. So yeah, I could be with anybody and still be myself, and people appreciate that.
You said earlier on that you are a politician.
Yeah, well, I'm the president of my dorm, McLeod Hall. So in a way, I'm a student leader / politician at Fayetteville State. Yeah.
Okay. As you describe it,
Yeah.
you are a politician. I'm curious. I get to gratefully talk to a lot of your generation of future leaders on a consistent basis. And a lot of you have a very different viewpoint with regards to what politics looks like today. My curiosity of you is, what would you like to see differently from our leaders today?
Leaders in politics or leaders in education?
Okay. Leaders in, let's go with, I love that. Let's start with leaders in politics.
Okay.
And then let's hear your viewpoint on leaders in education as well.
Leaders in politics, they need to speak to the middle class, because the middle class are what keep our country moving. You need to go to those blue collar states. You need to go to those people who, like the port people at the ports, who who are moving stuff, moving stuff to the grocery store, moving stuff to your doorstep, Amazon, all that stuff. Those people who are those blue collar jobs, like people, well, they do need journalists, but our world will function without journalists in a way. But our world is not going to function without people who are bus drivers, people who are truck drivers, people who are mechanics, like everybody who hairstylists, people who are doctors. Those are blue collar people who help our society run, who are the heart of our country. So if politicians connect with the middle class and be for the people, not just for rich people, I think that there will be a stronger united front for our country. You need to connect with the middle class.
Okay. So better connection with the middle class.
Yeah.
Is what this generation would like to see from our leaders.
My perspective. I can't speak for everybody.
Spoken by Shimei.
Yeah.
As spoken by Shimei. Take the second half of it that you suggested. Education leaders, yes.
I think you need to connect with students. You can't be all about the title and all the stuff. You need to be personable with the students. And that's one thing I really appreciate about, my chancellor, Darrell T. Allison, who is an HBCU alum, right? And he knows, how to get stuff done for the betterness of the students, not the betterness of him, for the betterness of the students. And that's one thing I really appreciate about him and his administration, because they care about the students. It's the student first. And that's what I think, people in higher education, especially higher education, I'm speaking for higher education, I don't know about K through 12, but people in higher education, these 4 years, right, are the pivotal part of a lot of people's life. You find out who you are in college. A lot of people find out who you are in college. And if we have different resources to help with mental health, food insecurity, or, an activity center where we can, get stuff off our chest, or just have another place where we can just relax and, and have fun and engage. Or like we just got a new Starbucks. That's another place where people can study, right? Have something to eat and engage with other students and other friends and all that stuff. And that's one thing that I think people in higher education need to do. Connect with your students, because if you have no students, you're not getting paid. So that's one thing that, I feel like, from my experience, I think that people in leadership in higher education need to do. In education, connect with your students. It's not about you. It's about the students.
So, Shimei, it's clear to me that you and I could have spoken about anything today. Politics being one, education being another, the value when you mentioned Kentucky, by the way, I went to Kentucky State University, and that's an HBCU in Kentucky as well. So when you mentioned Kentucky, that kind of fluttered my heart for 2 seconds.
I said Kentucky?
You did. You said that you were raised in Kentucky.
No, Connecticut.
Lord have mercy.
Yes.
You said Kentucky.
I said Kentucky.
Maybe it's my fault. My apologies. Maybe I heard Kentucky.
No, I was raised in Connecticut.
Connecticut.
That's why I said it's the second smallest state in the country, in the nation.
My apologies.
Yeah.
I heard Kentucky, and I sincerely apologize.
It's okay. Yeah,
we would have welcomed you at Kentucky State University, by the way. Just FYI, we would have welcomed you there. We would have. We could have spoken about anything today, but I'm sure there are a couple of things, or there's something that you thought you'd love to share that I have not covered. Can you share with the audience something that Tosin, unfortunately, did not touch on during the episode?
Well, I just want people to know that, never give up. I recently got a scholarship from the Charlotte Hornets for my work in journalism. And, I was the first person from an HBCU to get this scholarship. And for a lot of people, even at my previous school and even here, and it doesn't matter where I go, don't believe in the craft that I have. And I think that, stuff like that, when people doubt you, that should motivate you to go even further, to prove them wrong.
Wow.
So I will say to people, like I say, the action never stops. Even when stuff don't go your way or stuff don't go to plan, the action never stops. You need to keep pursuing your passion. If you have a craft that you really want to pursue, go for it. You don't take no for an answer. And I think people, especially in my generation, we get discouraged when people say no. That no is a no right now. It could be a yes tomorrow. It could be a yes 10 years from now. I'm a religious person. I'm a person of faith. I believe that, God, what God has for you is for you. And, I think that, everything right now, me being 21, just turning 21 this year, have learned that, just stay the course. Things might not go your way, but just stay the course. Be consistent. Don't take no for an answer. And you also have to have a good support system in the back of you as well. Now, be careful who you associate yourself with, because if you with somebody who bad grades, is being talked about negatively, don't have a good reputation, that's guilty by association. So that's why I'm very careful who I'm associating myself with, because I have a brand that I don't want to mess up, right? So that's one thing I think we need to take care of, and be careful who we associate ourselves with, and don't make it seem like people think you're Hollywood or you're better than somebody. No, I just don't want to be associated with that. It's a difference between being a mean person or, someone who's not easy to be around with, than removing yourself or distancing yourself from people because, you chose to do that, but I'm going to choose to go this way because I know what I want to be at. And that's not a good look on my part to be. So it's guilty by association, especially if you're a person of color. Just saying. But yeah, that's just my soliloquy, I will say. I know I go off on a tangent sometimes, but yeah, that's what I have to get off my chest. Yeah, that's my
Shimei Cook.
That's some of my words of inspiration. Yeah,
I appreciate that. It has been a pleasure having you on our podcast for this episode. Please leave our audience with one word or short phrase on why you, Shimei Cook, loves HBCUs.
I love HBCUs because I see people like me every day.
I see people like me every day. I like
And
that.
I'm walking around greatness every day. So that's
Shimei,
why I love HBCUs.
I think it is impossible for especially students at HBCUs not to hear this episode or watch this episode and go ahead and like or subscribe, and not or like and subscribe because of this episode.
Yep.
Shimei Cook, it has been amazing hosting you as our guest for I Love My HBCU question mark. And to those listening and watching, those listening to the sound of my voice, those watching, it is again, I'm going to repeat this. It is impossible for you not to like this episode because of Shimei Cook. Yours in HBCU love. See you next episode. Thanks, Shimei.
You're welcome.
You've been listening to I Love My HBCU question mark. Let's keep the conversation going as we share our stories and encourage more practical support of HBCUs, whilst of course holding each other accountable. Don't forget to follow and subscribe for the latest episodes. Until next time, love and lift your HBCU.